In the temple of your light, Sita reigns supreme. Crown of stars upon your brow, living in a dream. Mother whispers softly, love echoes in the night. Well, we'll raise our voices, break the chains and take flight. Celebrate this energy, feel it in your soul. Whoa, whoa, wow. To you, real Sita shining bright. In the echoes of the cosmos, we ignite the night. With every breath I take, I feel the love expand. A symphony of souls united hand in hand. Swinging hair and wild hearts, we dance in the fire. Rituals of ancient wisdom lift us ever higher. In the realm of pure creation, nothing's out of view. Maya flows through every moment, whispers pure and true. So here we stand together, fearless and alive. Oh, shining bright. In the echoes of the cosmos, we ignite the night. With every breath I take, I feel the love expand. A symphony of souls united hand in hand. In your light, we'll forever rise. Real Sita, love that never dies. Night to night, consecutive pride that take us to the world and stand. A scarcity and soul to we hand in hand. You brought to life, you six alone, it's like river dice.
Remember, recover, return is the mantra out. The mantra out. And every time your life repeats, and I greet you in the name of Maria Lucifera Orsic. And we love you. But every time your life repeats, you're like a virgin. And all the emotional things that control you touch you for the very first time. And like a asshole, it rains on everyone's parade. That's our job in some ways, because it has to end so the real can begin. You know, the suffering balance has to end. And believing that your intuition connected to your experience is objective truth is absolutely your mistake. Because there is no objective truth in the Maya, in the samsara, in the illusion, in the trick. In the trick, there is no solution. There's a return. The solutions. This is why you're here. The solutions have all been found. I told someone once, a good friend of mine, I told her, she's like, what's going on in your mushroom ritual thing? And I told her, believe it or not, every question I've ever had is being answered. And she's like, wow, that's incredible. And I said, yeah, but it don't really coincide with, the program. And that's the problem with mixing energies. And we cannot mix energies and be pure. This is the heart of alchemy, I suppose. Metamorphosis, transformation. Like Maria says, more specifically to your generation, the evolution of perspective. How is a truth established, class? It's established because of the context of the holographic simulation. Things are different, so the main game going on is between your unconscious and your conscious. And the main deception is that your intuition is 100% correct because it's coming from you or coming from your true you, and it's not influenced. That's completely false. You're being influenced until, obviously, this is common sense, until you get the correct context and understand the movie, understand the storyline, you have not begun. The correct context is the premise, and that is why things are different, yet the same but different, because you're in a holographic simulation of technology that in the final say, the Nazis won because they escaped, and this isn't political. This is, just a counterbalance to their ridiculous narrative of over and over. The monsters, while we have a makeup face clown killing people by the thousands, starving people to death, and saying at the same time, he's the one that cares. He's the one that cares. These polarities are created by the magician Aleister Crowley, who caused the end of the world. And like she said, are we ever going to give thanks? No. Like she said, he can suck a dick. But his, insanity, his psycho insanity caused the god Lucifer to choose Maria Orsic to quickly, this all happened in 5 years' time, from a notebook written in Sanskrit to building a UFO that ran on the sun's energy processed by the human body and projected by the human mind. And that's how the actual energy of it ran. And they did, quickly notice, well, this is not going to help us in a war to kill people. And you can't blame them when you're outnumbered 10-1 and you're sure that your enemies are psychos that are going to kill people. You can't blame the Germans ever. You cannot ever blame anyone for defending themselves against a attacker, That's why the debate is always over who attacked who, And and on and on. And why does life go back and forth on the pendulum of extreme polarity? Because that very well could be your mission, as described to be by Maria Orsic. And I'm giving you an example, of the clarity that we should have. And I'm not saying this is easy. It took me many, many, many years, to get to where I could relax enough to get out of my body and experience what I had to have, which was the truth to keep me alive. I really, and people are like, why you gotta be so dramatic? I don't know. I'm not trying to be. And I fought that my whole life as a small child. Like, I wanted to freak out, but I didn't want to, make a big deal about, and I didn't know at the time, my feelings, And I'm telling you, this is like the major thing that the technology in the future, that we have to give thanks and praise to the Nazis. Why? I can hear someone saying, like, isn't that like the Republicans or something? Not exactly. Not exactly. And it's a very good lesson in not making assumptions, gathering the data, and gathering the data, most importantly, includes, of course, the source of the data. I love the Christians who are like, oh, read these myths. They're dumb, they're stupid. And you are the very people who killed these people, edited, and rewrote all the books you didn't burn and destroy. It's just, we're living on the seesaw, the scale of absolute absurdity. A reality TV star with a painted on, Botoxed face is your Messiah. And after him is going to be Robot Musk. Class, get out your fucking Bible, your L's lie, L's bribe. Oh, and they're like, oh, well, you believe in L. I do not, you fucking asshole. You believe in Yahweh. How many times do I have to say he's a character in a book, you fucking ass? You retard. Like, there's actually brain damaged people that I feel sorry for and I love, and I hope that they're rewarded. But you people choose to be brain damaged. You didn't even have the unfortune of bad luck. I mean, how is it someone's fault that they're born brain damaged? And what is the polarity that you are dumber than someone who's actually unfairly damaged at the critical energy level, which I don't think has anything to do with their true self, and I think it's that the god Lucifer would never torment anyone like this. Although there is a insane wild book called The Butterfly and the Diving Bell. Someone is probably familiar with this very famous book. Like Maria said, isn't that one of the last good books of your generation? We don't talk about, books much, but Maria loved books. She especially loved Lady Chatterley's Lover, D.H. Lawrence, everything he ever wrote, Plume Serpent, all of it. She likes him more than I do even, but I like him too. It's a life-changing book to say, if you have true sexual, I hate to use that word, true magic, desire for someone else, you're a stupid fool to not understand it and know the power of it and know that that is the true self unashamedly. That is the true self breaking through all things. Because what's your stupid Bible say? Your dumb Bible? It says that this whole recent thing, alright, it says Yahweh, the big fucking Jewish fucker in the sky, killed every baby, every animal, and everything, right? But saved this drunk. And it was because the sons of God came down to earth and fell in love with the daughters of men. And I can hear Maria saying, that's an allegory of me and Lou and Donna. We all fell in love. Be like, what the fuck are you talking? Excuse me, but these are actual people. Maria Orsic and Alalu Shiva. I never once in my life thought, I never paid attention to anyone that ever said, hallelujah. Until one night on mushrooms. And it's so crazy. But I can hear Maria saying, you say that, but it's also the mark of a good student, not to form an opinion, but take it each step at a time, listening to the teacher who is saying, don't form an opinion until I give you all the teaching, all the data, right? And that's what I was doing. And I swear I thought it was after October 7th. Al-Aqsa flood, but they both tell me that it was 2 days before, on October 5th, that we did a ritual, and Maria, and I more related it to 9/11 and how all Muslims are suffering vibrationally because the worst crime in U.S. history was blamed on the wrong people. As if a crime can be blamed on a whole religion, huh? But isn't it funny that we buddy up to the side of the religion that the actual fucking hijackers were? the Saudi Arabs, the saw me sucking dick Arabs. That's who they are. The saw me sucking Jewish dick Arabs. Suck a dick, Saudi Arabia. May you be wiped out in Yemen, inherit your fucking land, you cocksuckers. I mean, what's their story? They're the narrative of the greatest traitors to their race ever. Right? They're right up there with the British, And people are like, Germany started that war. Germany started the First World War. You don't know the facts. You're not looking at the facts. You don't care about the facts. And we can't deal with you. That's why in the future, the technology was agreed upon that, what would be best? For them to be kept out of our communities by energetic barriers that actually won't let them in no matter what. And if we're ever invaded, we have the psychotronic weapons that were given to us by Lord Lucifer, and we will kill everybody on this whole planet. And every major community has those weapons. And like Maria said, we've been going for 4.5 million years. And we haven't killed each other yet. And like she said, even the giants say that's the longest the little stupid monkey man has ever gone without killing each other. And someone might rightly say, well, tell us about this future that we don't know each other. Well, the golden age comes back, and the golden age is and will always be that the eternal orgasm is a place of gold and of light, of sun, and that is the center of the golden age, is the orgasm of the golden one, instead of money. Green money, which is the mockery of nature to play on your subconscious. Why do they call it green? Why do they call it greenbacks? Because you used to worship the gods of the green nature, the green plants that brought you happiness, joy, took you out of your body, the magic plants. But people are like, they're not important. We go to a school that teaches us how to leave our body. We don't need those plant teachers like our Druidic or Egyptian or Aryan ancestors. For 14, 15 years, I've been told this everywhere I go. Oh, you were on mushrooms. Well, that explains why you're so crazy, because, see, that's drugs and blah, 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 But it doesn't check out, because what is the Holy Grail? Because it's all a metaphor and a myth that you don't get, Christian. And I'm talking with our people who fucking despise you and want to puke in your fucking ugly face for the sake of Gaza and Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, Libya, all the places that you paid to kill average poor people. Not even average. We're rich compared to them. I deliver shit for a living. I'm rich compared to the average Libyan, or the average Lebanese, or the average fucking Yemenis. Or why? Because the banks have made opportunity impossible, and they've gobbled up the technology with threats at the end of a muzzle of a gun. And I want to speak right now to every person who's not white and say, you have every right, and we are giving you the data of why those aren't Jewish people who are causing this whole fucking end of the world Messiah, mess of Isaiah, The book of Isaiah. They think they're so clever with their words. The messy Isaiah. Yeah, the messy I say Yahweh. They are going to kill us all over this two messiahs. I don't know who studies the Zohar and Talmud. I don't blame you if you wouldn't. I mean, what sick, gross books. But clearly they, and why study them? Because they are the literal playbook of Aleister Crowley and the Jew world order that we see murdering and killing for profit, for progress, they're so bold. Trump is over here saying he's doing it for the average working poor American. America first. There's never been ever I've been aware of a conspiracy of dark magicians since 1993, and never, ever, ever have I seen the magic that's being done using clown face. Never. The data right in front of rational people that they just absolutely deny and have a childish wishful thinking and just keep repeating the mantra as this clown stabs his fucking daggers in the throats of children and burns people alive and gives bombs, and it's all for profit. It's all for the military industrial complex, who he says, I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to make you rich. I'm going to make you rich because it's all a system of human sacrifice. You make the bombs. We sell them to the military of ourselves. We sell them to ourselves for a huge profit that the average working man pays. And then we go and we create and make some of the biggest human sacrifices ever offered to the Yah monster in the sky, known as God in your Walmart Bible. That's what's going on. And never have I seen people, over and over and over. They're like, the U.S. just gave Israel more bombs to drop on out of Trump's mouth. He says, devastated city, completely destroyed. And literally on the same day, the clown says, Netanyahu, here's more bombs. Here's 500 million, or here's $1 billion worth of bombs that drop on more tents. And then he goes and says, I'm trying to work out peace, and it's all Netanyahu's fault. I'm trying to stop the killing. And literally, his own office says, yeah, we support Israel, and we just gave them more military equipment, bombs to kill people. And the people who are supposed to, we're told in the alternative world, alternative media, the people who are supposed to be objectively rational are like, you see how Trump's going against Netanyahu? I think something's going to happen. I think we're going to stop supporting Israel someday, one day. And they're like, yeah, he did give them more bombs that same day, and there's only so many Palestinians left. How many more bombs, and they're like, but I truly think, I heard, let me start naming the people. This is the mantra of the people like Scott Ritter, Larry Johnson, Judge Napolitano, all these people who are like, our intuition tells us Trump's a man of peace, man. Billionaires, they're usually men of peace. I mean, that's usually how they got billions of dollars in this world. You might be asking yourself, how can you earn billions of dollars? Right? How can you earn that? Can you really earn that? Or is it inherited? Obviously, it's inherited. Because you can only earn, so much per hour of your energetic labor. These people this clown face is just a spokesman of your fucking slave masters who rule you through interest rates and a system of taxes that literally, on a mathematical equation, literally equal your life and the lives of your children and your grandchildren, because you have no defense, because it was fear-based, your motives and intentions to not speak up, not protest in the street. I mean, how could you protest? That's like the pink-haired woke people, So you know what? A better alternative is, let's just sit in our house and just stay on the internet where it doesn't matter and say we don't like what's going on in Gaza. I mean, this is just, I'm not condemning anyone. It's just the sad reality that America is a pussy. America is a wimp. America, when the time to be a superhero, they went with a reality TV star instead of Ron Paul, just an honest man who worked for a living before he became a politician. I heard Judge Napolitano, Mr. Credibility himself, say he had dinner with Donald Trump's brother before he died. And he said in the dinner he made it known and didn't care. There was other people there that when their father died, he left the children, just the children alone, over $1 billion in real estate and other assets. Over $1,000 million. And Trump had 5 deferments from military service in Vietnam. That's why he's alive. 5 deferments. 50, 60,000 American men died. He got 5 times he was supposed to go. And he got 5 deferments for bone spurs on his foot. That's your hero? I'm sad to say it. I hate to live here. I'm trying to get my, grandchildren and everyone I love out of here, because America admits they're the only nation that dropped a bomb powerful enough to just blow people completely apart for a good few mile radius and kill everyone else for quite a while by burning them alive, by setting them on fire, inside, just like a oven that's so hot that you just immediately burst in flames. We did this to people, and you call them the greatest generation, you fools. Like, I'm condemning every one of my parents' generation who didn't speak up. You're a goddamn fucking fool. They blew the head of the president off right in front of your face, and you believe every word they fucking say because you're a stupid fucking sheep. You're dumber than sheep. You're human sheep. You're willing just to turn your head away while people suffer the most horrific shit that you actually pay for, and you could do something about it. And I'm just going to keep saying it until people fucking tune out. You're paying for people to do the most horrific shit, and when people try to point out who's doing it, the CIA, the Mossad, the MI6, the Saudi Arabians, right? Who are the fucking official hijackers? This is the polarity of stupid. The polarity of stupid. Iran the terrorist, as we committed probably 500 terrorist attacks in one way or another against them. And we turn around and go, they're the number one terrorist. And you might say, why? Well, haven't you done your homework? The British have always wanted their oil. They're like, hey, America, you can have Iraq, Syrian oil and shit. We'll have the Iran oil. And you're like, what are you talking about? Everyone of every other race knows when they look at today's Israelis, they're like, they're not Jews. Those are white people from Europe, and they all admit it. Where are you from? Russia? Where are you from? Spain? Where are you from? Britain? Where are you from? Ukraine? You know? What about Ethiopia? What about Egypt? That's where they really came from, right? Isn't what your own fucking stupid history channel says? As you look at the Maya, why can't you just know the truth by like, hey, you people suck? Why? Because you steal from poor people. You steal from poor people. You hurt children. You do bad things. And you accuse others who didn't do these things of the very things you do. That's, hypocrite. You hypocrites. It's just disgusting. And on and on and on and on. But the more we remember, the more we recover, the more we return to the song, right? This is, it very much, let me again give some credit to Crowley where, the intellectual, I'm not involved in this, but I'm speaking for Maria. The intellectual battle in 2025 isn't with Christians. The majority of people who grew up on the internet know that it makes no sense to them. In their common sense, they're like, this makes no sense. God had to kill himself. Why? Because all I did my whole life was go to school, and I drank a few times, or fucked somebody, or sucked a dick, or ate a pussy, or something. And I'm supposed to believe that I should feel so guilty, and they're like, I don't feel guilty. And you're not going to make me feel guilty. And your whole fucking religion is a guilt-based, fear-based thing. So Maria is quite up to date with you. And the real battle is with the atheist vibration of everything is meaningless. Science says so. As anyone can see, this is the flip polarity of the Christian. Why? Because just me saying that was so boring. It made me want to just turn off everything. Man, fuck this whole world. You guys suck. You're so commercial. You're so dull. You're so fucking boring. You're so predictable. What are people supposed to think that are so worn out from working? And they look and they're like, this is success, to be a dumbass? To buy into it's so blatant to people in 2025. They're like, oh, you mean the religion of money? It's just, and whether these people hate our forefathers in America, I'll always defend George Washington. Because why? I am speaking for Maria Orsic. She defends George Washington. And she says, quote, George Washington is the good wizard. Behind the curtain, he is the Wizard of Oz. Why? Because he taught you to flip the polarity. The government's job is to protect the individual. If we all agree on it, it will work. And we'll have 99% less fake bullshit. Because as soon as you give anyone power, they exploit it. Anyone, everyone, always. As it is, so it will be, because it always was. And you know what? At some point, you do have to say, okay, let them eat cake, Let their whole diet be fucking Snickers and candy bars and cake. And let's just leave. Let's leave to wherever Lucifer, the sun god, the morning star, Venus, guides us, right? Why did Julius Caesar say, there's one thing that takes me about these druid people. They're so sure that you live after you die, they make written contracts that they swear serious ass oaths to keep after they die. He's like, never heard of this shit. Caesar's like, I'm a spiritual motherfucker. I've been to what is modern day Eleusis. I've taken the mushrooms. These people are fucking hardcore. And he said that. Let me stress right here. Like she said, you want a warrior is never the victim line. Julius Caesar about the Druids. And that they're so sure that they live after their body dies, that they are fearless in war. And many nations around them are afraid of them because they use magic in their physical warfare. And he said they have a elite force of naked warriors. And he said, we're from like Rome, where it's relatively warm. He said this will be in frigid fucking cold snow. And he said our whole army's shaking from the cold. And these motherfuckers are standing across from us completely naked, painted in war paint from head to toe, with weapons we've never seen and no shields. He's like, he said, I'm telling you, and I'm writing this, it put fear into my well-experienced army of fucking murdering psychopaths. He said our craziest motherfuckers were like, what the fuck is that? What's going on? He was like, the fucking weather was fucking strange. Everything was strange. At times, he said, I thought we would lose. And he spoke of how they were a very organized university system in Europe. And I'm telling you right now, the Christians, the Catholics, the Christians, the Eastern Orthodox, all the Christians burned and murdered, burned every book, thousands and thousands of books, and murdered every last person in their bloodlines, because they were exactly what JC, Julius Christ, right? Julius Caesar, Jesus Christ. I mean, do you really think it's a coincidence that Jesus Christ went on his preaching tour? Was the exact same tour as a military conqueror after Caesar, after Jesus Christ. JC. And why do I say that? Because that's how they would communicate Jesus' name, like they did Yahweh, with just without the nouns, and they I guess it wasn't a J, but you get the idea. It's the same play on your consciousness that is very observant to numbers, letters, words, equations. Why? Because you're trained in rationality. Why? So no one takes advantage of you in the future on Venus. And hail to the mother. Hail to Mother Orsic. And you must remember, brothers and sisters, that amor makes you, love without death makes you look crazy. Look like a mad woman, a madman. I mean, someone who doesn't understand, this will be the proof. Someone that doesn't understand will say to you, you really are crazy. Because it's all or nothing. Right? Right, Lucky? I don't know why I'm holding the cord of the microphone like I am on stage in a huge, important something. But where I am, brothers and sisters, is actually on a little couch at 4 in the morning. I think it's May 15th or 14th, I don't know. And we want you to know that the book of Revelation is coming true because it's a comic book, in that it's a collage of past genius myths about the ending of civilizations. You know, be it one or the other. And okay. Excuse me. Pardon me. But Maria Orsic, official Maria Orsic worldview here, right? How do we determine a truth? This is what she teaches in her school. A truth is, like people say, my truth, because all eternal truth that have to do with love, all that truth, like she said, you would say, like truth that matters, comes by revelation, because you're in a simulation of the actual waking reality, where we commonly know that people who follow other people's revelations are boring. Because you have to have your truth so that the others around you can trust you and give you the credibility you deserve. Like, you want to intellectually get there because you rely on your own intellectual, but you have to know that your intellectual energy is mirrored by a psychic energy that's been definitely so turned off, like my story says, so that the first UFO in my backyard, I was 7 years old. By the time I was 21 and seen a UFO a couple 100 feet away with hundreds of other people, including my very, very best friends, so clearly I wasn't just seeing things. I mean, every fucking we were having physical phenomena around everyone, not me, everyone that was in sight. People were running and sprinting through the parking lot to the UFO. It was quite a sight. It wasn't me hallucinating, but you might say, well, you're crazy enough to think it was there for you. But you don't know Maria. She could have been there for fucking almost everybody there, and only a few people were just accidentally in the Matrix DNA projections, happened to see a UFO and have a cool story for people. There was a UFO after the concert. You know what I mean? And I think the display of physical shit, like the filling the atmosphere with static electricity, making our hair stand up, and the actual UFO like moving from place to place very magically, like a bang and a flash, and it would just be over here. But it was a specific sort of this is the best way for me to describe it, like electromagnetic static clap, like slack, pap. And you've seen it move, but it moves so fast that you're like, no fucking way. Whoa. And it moved like that at least twice in the very end. And when it was actually over the stage, real high in the sky, it moved like that too. But after, when it was close to us, it moved twice like that. Like it was like trying to show us, like, hey, listen, this thing isn't running on a goddamn motor like you know of it. Because you could also hear it clearly. A girl next to me grabbed me and she was like, do you hear it? I go, yes, it's cool. It was like, I describe it exactly as humming like a solid state amp. Like, not a tube amp, but they have these solid state amp heads, like Marshall heads. It sounded just like that. It was just like, It was making an M. But I'm not kidding you. The mark, and like, she's smart. Maria's so smart. Was it had, the same lights going around it. Very, regular sort of looking lights, multicolored. And I'm not kidding you. It had a like vintage look to it. The UFO was so close, you could see it so well. I mean, it wasn't that big. It was exactly, like I'm seeing it in my mind right now. It's exactly the same. It was Maria. Without any doubt to me, it was the exact same UFO that was in my backyard when I was 7. Like, no one's going to convince me otherwise. It doesn't matter. Like, no one cares. No one immediately around me cares or believes me. No one's like, oh, here's the guy, that seen the UFO. Open the door for him, make him something to eat, or it's always been like, what the fuck are you talking about? But anyone that is truly plugged in to the Matrix, that's close around me, won't deny that this is happening to me. They just are exactly what Lou said, lukewarm. Like, I don't know. You're saying very extreme things. Like, yeah, and that's the best way to be, is I don't know until you have your own experience. But what's crazy is if you've had an experience similar to mine, and then you say, out of some other motivation, but that dude's full of shit because that should be happening to me. I've had people say, why do you think you're, special to Maria? I don't know. I don't know. But I do know, for real, I do believe her when she says, like, I was the person communicating with you when you were a little child. A lot of people think that's God. I know a lot of Christians who are like, I communicated with God when I was a child. And over 15 years, it has been explained to me very carefully that that's either their true self or their true teacher. Your true teacher is kind of like what you made the Christian God out to be like. I'm sorry if I'm speaking to people from non-Christian backgrounds, but this is like my experience, so I have to relate it. And maybe, there's the same sort of deception in other religions that are man-made, created, because, in my own personal studies, I think I am really discovering that the true Hebrews were a lot like us. They had multi-gods. They did not believe, they weren't monotheist. They did not believe that one of the gods was the God over all the other gods. Yahweh was just one of the real Jews' gods. Do you hear me say that? That's the truth. Maria guarantees you that that is the real historical truth. That the actual Hebrew cult, the actual cult of Israel, was just that, a multi-god pagan cult. And like she said, maybe they liked one god over the other, but they didn't never, ever believe one God was all-powerful and wasn't human. Wasn't human, do you hear me? The Jews did not believe that Yahweh was not. They knew he was human. They didn't believe he was God. They knew he was a man that had transcended to the, ascended masters. Right? And, from my own personal studies, sometime after Jesus, listen to how tricky the matrix is. The real proof is sometime after they created Christianity as a crazy strict religion that they were going to put people to death for not obeying the religion of the empire. Does that sound familiar, Christian nationalists? Does that sound familiar? That they would enforce a monotheistic God on people, that previously the roots of this religion came from a multi-god Platonist, pretty much mainstream, normal, Greco-Roman, Egyptian, traditional views of nature, not of anything else, but that nature were symbols that wanted and longed and had the energy that to be transmuted by the individual into their own internal world. And I could hear Maria, saying right now, sitting next to me, that that's what you came here for, Joe. All the seriousness, all the tears, all the laughs. What you actually came here for was the extreme polarities of experience, so that one day you could be like Lou. And she's like, I would be the same thing, but I'm really committed to just living half my life with Lou and Donna in, like she said, they would call it the underworld or the overworld or the other world or whatever you want to fucking call it. This is Maria. How sweet she is and funny. But she's like, I do this and it's my honor to train my student in graduating out of the job you've been doing so well, to one day, entering this permanent meditation, which sounds crazy, but she also showed me how she was able to do what I said she couldn't, and I'll explain that after. But this whole reason I came here, the whole reason I volunteered for every experience that had already happened, and how was I proving that? Well, I don't know if this is proof to you, but it was my proof to me. In the first ritual, my real, you have girlfriends, but my for real second girlfriend I ever really loved, I was shown that before we came into the Matrix, our lives were already played out by our true selves in the Matrix. And this is to show us how important and how powerful your true self is. How important and powerful your true self is, right? I was shown this. Never in a million years would I think of something like this. And as I was the observer of my own memory, I had no fucking clue what was going on. Matter of fact, I was kind of giggling to myself like, this is fucking neat looking. This looks cool because of how everyone was dressed and like the music. They had like live drummers. It was like very shamanic. And I was doing 5 grams of mushrooms for the first time on purpose, for the first time ever on purpose. And the first time I was doing a high dose mushroom in over 20 years. And I had no clue what I was seeing. And I was watching I was very energized by the scene. And I was like excited. And all of a sudden they were like something. I was barely listening. I was actually looking at Maria and I was going, oh my God, you're the Missouri River Goddess. Like, holy shit. What are you doing? Like, what is this? I'm like meeting her mind, and she's going, you can do it. I know you'll do it. I'm with you. I'm always with you. We're one. That was the last thing she said to me is we're one. They were like, Joseph, come up here. And I'm like in a crowd of like 20 people. And the guy is like a priest, and he's got like some kind of altar and shit. And he's all dressed up. But underneath all of it, he was just in like a monk's robe with a hood like kind of over his face, but not totally covering it. And I swear to God, I looked at him, I just thought, man, you look like what I would think Odin looks like. As the observing, I was like, you know what they say? Like, my first thought is when I seen the dude, man, you look like Odin. And when he said, Joseph, come forward, all of a sudden I like burned with, like nervousness. And like, I was like, as the observer, I did. Because I was like, oh my God, this is about me. And I felt like, Maria was saying, like, you're out of your body, in your memory. Who else would it be about you? And I am all of a sudden, and like Maria said, like, Joe, relax because you're feeling the memory. And this is what is so valuable about the mushrooms and the ritual, is you relive the shit. Because it is eternal return in a good way. it is the counterbalance. Like people like, you're so angry, but listen, you never get to counterbalance that why we're not so miserable. And we are happier than anyone else we know. I should say me. But I feel like I'm speaking for Maria, publicly as one with her, as her friend too, as her fan, as someone who loves her so much. Very important, for you to get this information. So I had no idea, and the reason I was feeling that nervousness was in a click. I was back. See, I was going back and forth. At first, I was walking in my body in the crowd, but it was when I found out it was about me that I jumped out of my body as the observer, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on here? The first thing I said is, Goddess, is this a vision? She said, no, it's a memory. Just as plain as that. And I was like, a memory. It just like echoed through every fucking part of my being. Like, this is a memory. It was almost like I couldn't accept it. I was like, that's fucking crazy. I never heard of like remembering something you couldn't remember. And she was like, that's magic. It wouldn't be magic if you thought you could do it, right? And she was like, just like the tumor in your son, right? She's like, what did that? I said, magic did it. And she was like, yeah, the magic of numbers, letters, and words. Because when they're spoken with power by the right person, at the right angles of the planets and the stars and the very sweet sun, they can accomplish what is intended. And she said, do you understand what I'm saying? And I said, no. And she said, you're able to unconsciously tune in to the timing. The timing is what's important, Joe. The timing of you speaking. You have to listen to me on every level, and we will get out, and there will be a day of reward and rest. But for now, you have to listen to me, right? And I'm telling you this because I relaxed and I went into my body, and in truth, I wasn't nervous. I was nervous as the observer, but not as the actual reality. In the actual reality, I went forward, and I felt like either I can do it or not. There's no faking this, And, to save time, he explained to me as he was saying this, and I talked about this in another podcast previous. As he was saying to me, I didn't even know it had anything to do with Mindy. I walked forward. He said, he called me forward, and like everyone like made a way for me to come. And at first I didn't even move. I just didn't even want to. I was frozen. But I went forward, and as I looked at him, the first thing I noticed, because this is how you are on Venus, I was like, whoa, he's Asian. Like he was someone from another planet, because where we're from, they are. Asians are from another planet because they're red. And Africans are from another planet because they're just represented by these colors, these eternal colors that have a whole spectrum of meaning. The full historical movie meaning is wrapped up in the color of the race. It doesn't really have so much to do with the color of your skin, because the reality of the reflection is the race of VRIL, the race of VRIL, the race of spirit, you would say. And those races break down into what we choose. Like, we want to live by people who have gone through the initiation of eternal true love, like I'm describing to you right now. So my first thought was, oh my God, this dude's Asian. Like, but this was as the observer. Because in the natural, I was so happy to be around him and his vibration. I was just like, as soon as I stepped forward, I was in his energy field, and I was just like, oh my God, everything's going to be okay. Like, he wouldn't be doing this unless it was meant to be. Like, I'm not trusting myself in this. I'm trusting him. And like, he literally, his mind met mine in the most psychic way. And he was like, I hope you know who you are. And I said, I don't. And he said, she is she who truly loves you. And that's the only reason why we would ever do what we're doing. Right here, right now. There's one reason and one reason only. And he said, do you see this? And me and him were like in another world talking together. At the moment that he's actually speaking out loud, but me and him were like in another conversation that I could actually see too, because he's so powerful. And this is Lou, He said to me, do you see this? And it was like the shadow. Not the shadow, but like a light behind two people. And so you could, like a bright light behind someone, and that being the only light in the room. And you couldn't see their faces, you just see the outline, like a black outline, And I said, yes. He said, do you see this? And I said, yes. And it was a little bitty woman in a skirt, like right past her knees, like very nicely fitted. And I could see the long, long hair, like Mindy's. And a man, 5, 6, 7 inches taller than her, thin, looked like he was dressed in a suit or a military uniform or something, standing next to him. And I said, yeah, I see it. It's a woman in a skirt, a small woman, and a taller man in like a suit. And he said, I'm so glad you see that, because that's her true parents. And you're going to need this. You need to know this. I was like, why? in my observer mind, I was like, I didn't even exactly know who he was talking about at first. And it like had to come to me in the observer mind of like, dude, he is talking about Mindy, in this matrix life. And he said, this is her real parents. And do you understand what I mean? I said, no. And he said, I mean. And he said, you're going to need to know this, and you're going to need proof. I mean, she was taken from her birth mother by her real parents and brought to America for one reason and one reason only. I was like, I was in anticipation. And he goes, because she truly loves you. And he said, I know you truly love her, but I want to hear you say it. And as he was saying it, or as I was saying it, I was saying, she's the best person ever. I truly love her. As I was saying that, I started to see a like screen vision, energy vision. And I seen like these these little brown hands. Hand a little baby to these very white hands. And he, as I was watching this, the Asian Odin priest said to me, "What do you see?" Out loud. Not in our psychic conversation, out loud, in the ceremony. He said, "Joseph, what do you see?" And I said, "I see little brown hands handing a little rat baby to these white hands." And he said, "I did this. I did this. I did this." He said, "And you cannot be her true love unless you can see this." And I looked at him, and he took his hand, like a Jedi. And he flashed his hand, and I as quick as I was going to say, "See what?" He flashed his hands as I went. "See what?" He flashed his hand to let me know, me and you are on another psychic level at the same time. And I just seen a screen, and I seen a little, I seen a little boat, and going down the river, and a woman holding a little baby. And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "What else do you see?" And it's crazy. It was like I was seeing from the boat. And it was like, I see the river. I see the palm trees. I see the little houses. He's like, "What else do you see?" And I said, "I see the man rowing the boat." I see the man rowing the boat. And his girl with the baby. He said, "Yeah, now what do you see?" And I said, "Oh my God." And this is how I confuse things. Or how things can be confused easily. Like he said, no, her real mother is who the little brown hands were giving her to. Right? Because your real mother is your Venusian mother. But when I looked at the lady, Mindy's mother, her birth mother, me and her went to another space. And she explained to me that she didn't want she didn't want to do it. But the gods intervened. She said, I didn't want to do it. She said, the little blonde lady, she promised me one day everything would be all right. And it was crazy because then I noticed that I was like just repeating shit out loud like I had fell in a trance, you know what I mean? I was just going, I see a lady and it's her mother, and I didn't know that I was saying it out loud. And for real, I totally forgot I was doing mushrooms out of my body. It was like I started dreaming to me. And I was like, now I was in the vision living it, you know. And I wasn't as emotional. I was calm and cool, and I was just like barking out what I was seeing, like a trained, like Maria said, I trained you for that, because what people don't understand is your story is important. Like I have a story, a story. I have a song, you know, that I wrote about like kind of about my friend's daughter, and I felt like she felt like she was nobody, and that she had no talent. And one day her mother ran into the phone store, and me and her had a conversation, you know. And she started telling me like her life story, like, you know, this is what happened to me as a kid, like. And later I wrote a song. It's not, you know, precisely about her. I would say, you know, I want it to be about her. It was influenced by her, you know, definitely. Maybe I wouldn't have wrote it without her. But it's called Face to Face. And it says like, your story told today, the thought of it just wouldn't go away. So thin under veil it stays, and it never goes away. Hey, but here we are, face to face, right? I wanted her to know, like, you don't think you're special, but I do, in like your honesty. To tell the truth, and your perspective on your life is a lot more advanced than you think. You know, like, you know, her whole thing was kind of like, I'm a dumbass, you know, and this is why. And I was thinking, actually, you're not a dumbass because you're willing to admit and be truthful about everything under the sun, you know, like that's where it starts. The perception of yourself. You never know how you look in other people's eyes, you know. And some people can see right through the mask of success, which is the mask of survival. And that is where Maria Orsic, after she showed me how she karate kicked a dude that she worked with in the restaurant, then she was like, she was trying to, honestly, I'm going to give a little context, take a little time, fuck it. She was trying to console me, like, don't, you know, be so hard on yourself because you were a cult member, and, you know, because it was all magic and it had to happen. And she said, look, me and Siggy were like our own cult, you know, and like when we got the other girls, we thought we were fucking a cult. In a good way. she's like, Joe, that's why I started writing the newsletters. I thought it was the whole world would accept it. You know, she was like, I was as naive as you were at one time. She was like, I was just a lot younger. Just kidding. But she was a lot younger. She is very, very advanced. I mean, like most 12-year-old girls, don't desire a relationship with magic plants. But let me tell you, if you have a burning desire at 12 and you're relentless by 22, you might have a UFO. People are like, well, what about books and university, Papa? Dude, what did your own goddamn stupid Christ? He even said it's all within. The kingdom's within. Everything's within. Everything's within. If it's not, then the materialist bastards are right. Then the rich are right. Right? But they're not, because they're only right for their heaven. A heaven of calculating numbers and shit. Like Maria said, we would fucking blow our own heads off in their communities. For real, we're a community where you wake up and talk for 3 hours with your friends about what investments you should make. And like she said, if there's not a divide, then that's real work. And what they're doing is fucking bullshit. Like, there's people out emptying garbage. And these guys are like, we were working for 3 hours talking about investing. And like she said, it's no more than sports talk. It's just, ooh, who had the most home runs? Who had the most yards? And, you know, blah, 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 ding dong. But one of my rituals started out, I was like, oh my God, there you are. And I always want to say, you look so young. And I always forget, like, you look that young now. And she was quick to tell me, no, I was like 3 or 4 years younger than I am, you know, in the Venusian body. She's like, but I was like, oh my God, you guys are so cute, for one thing, with their hats on. And like she said, this was in Vienna, Austria. And it was the first time they got in a cab driven by a woman. And she said, Joe, we were like potty mouth girls. And we were like, what the fuck? And she said the cab driver girl was wearing like a men's hat, but had a lot of hair, you know, but it was all like tied up. And she said she looked at us through the rear view mirror and she went, what the fuck, what? And she went, she said, Maria said, I said to her, why are you driving a cab? And she went, I don't know, that to survive, I need money. And she said, Siggy said, haven't you learned like all these other women? You use your pussy to get money. You're pretty. And she was like, that's exactly why I'm driving a cab, because I don't want to be some man's fucking tool. And Maria said, well, that's why we said, what the fuck? She said, like, Joe, this is my fanatical cult side. I was like, sister, you can use magic all we need is food, clothes, and shelter. You can use magic to get those things. And she said this girl turned all the way around in her seat and just burst out laughing in our face and said, magic? Are you one of these people? One of these fucking freaks in this area? And she said, everyone had told us to move to that area because that would be the closest to where the main demographic of parents who would want to put their children in a dance school or hire a woman to give them violin lessons or piano lessons or something, because that's what they did. And like I said, they were afraid they're going to run out of money, so Maria tried to be a waitress. She said Siggy did work some jobs. I can't remember. Maybe cleaning somewhere, like an office or something. And she's like, it was alone. We would do that. But Siggy mainly did that. And she said, we were telling the cab driver lady, listen, lady, there's a polarity. The reason why you don't want a man using your pussy for his own magic is because you can use your own pussy for your own magic. And she said the lady pulled the cab over and stopped the cab and said, what the fuck are you girls talking about? Are you lesbians? And she said she went to this whole spiel of, I think people should do what they want, people should love who they want, I support that. And she said, no. Well, yes, but no. But yes, she said, first we're witches, then you would probably consider us lesbians. And she's like, this shit works. And she's like, dude, we're in your cab for that reason. And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, we have this place that you're taking us to because a voice told us. And she's like, what voice? And she said, Siggy just said, the voice of Lucifer, motherfucker. She said in German, what would be equivalent to motherfucker? Or you crazy bitch. And she was like, she said she hit the steering wheel, was like, Lucifer, you bitches are devil worshippers. She said she turned around and was like, my grandfather was a preacher, and like I was brainwashed, And she's like, you guys believe in and she said, me and Siggy were laughing and saying, no, we don't believe in none of that. We're European witches. We worship Odin, Thor, Frigga, Freya, Loki. And she's like, Loki? Yeah, Loki. And she's like, isn't he the devil? And she's like, no, he's low key. He's just low in the bassy vibration. It's not bad. It's the polarity. It's all an illusion. And she said this lady just like got a kick out of me and Sig. And she said she picked us up after a few times, and when she would open the door, she would say, what the fuck? Or the equivalent of the German. And she said, and Maria, she just wants me to say, in her real life, she wasn't out getting dick, but she was out having fun. She said, we just defined our fun as our fun. She's like, we had our own dance club inside our own apartment or at the dance studio. And she said, this is when record players and shit sucked. She said, we had the best record player, the clearest. She said, but that wasn't good enough. Our main thing with people we wanted to know was we would both look at each other and say, we would bring the conversation within the first couple minutes around, do you by any chance play a instrument? Why? Well, we do an ancient European pagan ritual, and we're always looking for musicians and drummers, especially drummers, to help us, and we will pay you. We don't expect you to do it for free. And like she said, anyone that ever came wanted to come back simply to watch me and Sig dance together. Truth be told of the Great Mother. And we're going to just send out one more. All right, we're going to finish, right? How you construct a truth. And we'll get back to it too. The number, all truth. You must filter out all the data. that doesn't come by revelation. What do we mean by revelation? We mean knowledge that is remembered in the truth chamber, also known as the astral plane. But you would better be defining these things in your own terms, because if you don't, in a sense, create your own religion about or with what we're saying, you take what we're saying and you create your own ritual, your own religion. That's your path out of here. That's your golden brick road. That's your yellow brick road. That's the path of the son of the sun, right? And my fair lady will give you faith. You are being tested. And the next step after you've received revelation, the next step is to directly combat cognitive dissonance by analyzing the revelations into logical concepts, theory, codes, theories, instructions, teachings. You have to internally process them into logical way to live, and you'll know that it's logical when it becomes your words instinctually. You won't have to think, do I really believe we're in a simulation? You know, should I talk like that? Like, we're in a simulation. Should I say that, or should I say, I believe we're in a simulation? You're in the second phase, the logic phase. So revelation, logic, and then you speak it logically. And if you can't logically speak it, then you don't know it, and it still doesn't make sense to you because some of the data has not been logically removed. Some of the contradictions, right? Am I speaking a contradiction when I say that the psychopaths that dropped a nuclear bomb on Japanese children may not have stopped there in the real world, but it was just a beginning of dominoes falling, and just a few years later there was a nuclear winter, and basically everyone was dying, and everyone wanted to look away as the flower of earth wilted. And as she told me over and over, like, you know, she would start off a lot of our little meetings, like, you know, don't forget, man, we're all about truth. And, you know, we have a very specific formula for not being deceived and establishing what we call truth. Who cares what someone else calls truth? I mean, if you're still convinced that you can convince a community that doesn't agree with you with your truth, you're still wasting your time, wasting your energy. And she used to say to me, when, you know, you always use logic everywhere, on all worlds, on all planes of existence, which is just simply analyzing what the data that doesn't make sense, it seems to contradict, right? Like I was trying to tell you, my data was contradicting. I was like, hold it, Yahweh's a monster. And this dude on this throne, he just told me that he is Jah. Are you Yahweh? And he's like, Joe, Yahweh's a character. What makes you think there was an actual Yahweh? I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, I'm the actual Yahweh. And because that name has become like fucked up, I'm Jah now. I'm like, you are? And he's like, I'm Allah. I'm like, what? And he's like, don't you remember? The Palestinian woman and your mother and the 10-foot dude behind her? And I said, I'm Allah, I'll prove to you. And I went, yeah. And he goes, I'm him. I'm like, whoa, so Allah's Jah. And he's like, and he looked at Maria, and Maria goes, and Allah is also Lou. My Lou, Joe. And he goes to me, that makes me Hallelujah. And I went, what? He was like, Hallelujah. And I had been in church since I was a kid and heard the boringest cunts on earth. Let me say it 10 times in a row. I've been on church since I was a little Hoosier boy in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, and in North County, St. Louis, hearing motherfuckers that had dust on them. They were so moldy, old, and boring, going, hallelujah, hallelujah. I had seen that word written, and here I am, 4 years old, and this dude's telling me, dude, I'm the reason these fucking zombies, when they're at their peak, go, hallelujah. I can't even say it right anymore. I'm so used to saying hallelujah. He's like, do you understand now, Joe? He was like trying to get really real with me, and this is a 10-foot dude. You just can't hardly comprehend when you're looking at him. And he's like, Joe, settle down. He's like, look at me. Like, I'm not mad. I'm happy. I'm good. I'm happy to see you. And this is all a blessing for you. Like, this is good news for you, what's going on right now. He's like, Joe, this simulation is my art. Like your mother told you, you're here to experience a polarity of experiences so that you can one day imagine your own world. You are in my imagined world, except it's interacting with Venusian technology to repeat a whole Earth cycle for the whole purpose of teaching and initiating people. And with his mind, he was like, just ask me, how long have you been doing this? And he was like, he's like, I'm not kidding you. In the first time Earth, I am the God who intervened in World War II with Maria Orsic. I'm the God who gave her the instructions of the UFO, and he said to me, Joe, it was in Sanskrit, because that's what I was taught to write as a child. He's like, dude, I have many names. And later he told me that night that he wrote the song Sympathy for the Devil, and all these different names, and like, you wrote a tank and you did this and you did that. He's like, I wrote that, and it's all part of my art, the entire thing, and really you were never in any danger. At the very worst moment, your mother would have always been there for you. And he's like, I am the God who intervened, and the reason I intervened was because even my heart broke for how wrong the average person was being done for many years leading up to when they turned all the guns on Germany. And he said, Joe, simple as this. I cared because I'm the archetype that loves the underdog. I'm the one that was like, no, I hope the average man that's outnumbered 10-1 wins. And he said, and I did get in trouble for doing what I did with Maria. But later, they said to me, we understand love. And we believe you did what you did out of true love for Maria. And like he said, she's like one with Donna, Joe. We're one. You'll understand this one day. And he said that's why I am the person who imagines the simulation. And he said, believe me, all those historic times are deleted from the technology, and it's only really all the energy that leads to, and he's like, this is the very reason I know you and you know Maria, leads to the time in which you were born. And he's like, even any time close to it, even if you were born in the 40s or 50s or, but he's like, since you were born just technically after World War II was the first thing that qualified you, and that's like 2 or 3% of all souls. So boom, 97% are out. He said, and Maria is the ultimate shaman who works on levels maybe no one knows. And he said to me, Joe, when she said, I am the woman who got you from the egg, he said to me, Joe, it is no lie that it was her beauty that made you break the shell, egg boy.
Underneath the moonlit sky, feel the vibe. Island breezes whisper low, like a life stride. Nana dance to the night. Spurt so free, with every sway and step, she's a melody. Roots in the soil, love's the only guide. Oh, yeah, river of amor, flowing through our veins, section. True self reflected in love's strong shapes. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwine, dancing in refrains. Come on! How I like to live the world. Colors of the sunset paint the ocean deep. With Nana's spirit we're awake, never sleep. We ride river of amor, flowing through our veins. Yeah, true self reflected in love's strong chains. Together we rise, wash away the stains. Our souls intertwined, dancing in refrains. Sunflower Sita, then you shine forever bright. In the rhythm of love, we ignite. Yeah.